vastness of space. That is where life begins.
Ashley, thank you so much. Do you have any follow-up thoughts or anything else you would like to share with our viewers?
No, I've really enjoyed being part of this panel. It's my first time being part of a panel, so thank you for inviting me, Tamika. And hearing everyone's words, I just wanted to speak a little bit about some of the work some of panelists, my fellow panelists, are doing with food justice. It's, it's also when I was thinking about that work, I was thinking about I think liberation, Black liberation, any liberation, but Black liberation is iterative, right? It's every generation is going to approach it their own way. And it's so important that we remember that we are actually just, that we are, at our true essence isn't what's on the earth, right? It's something that's bigger. We're connected to the stars, even we're made up of, I'm a math teacher and a science teacher, so we're made up of the same things the stars and the planets are made up of. So as we're working toward liberation, to consistently remember to put something back before you leave, so that's all.
Thank you so much. And next, I would like to invite Helen to grace us with her contribution to the event.
Thank you. So I am going to be reading a piece that I wrote years ago. When I wrote it, I was doing it it was like an assignment that I had where we had to write something about ourselves. And I wrote this piece when I was listening to some Ethiopian jazz one evening, and just like since I've written this piece, like I always refer back to it whenever I find myself in like stressful moments or moments where I feel kind of lost in this world. My background, my background is in film and like photography and storytelling. I'm very passionate about representations in, in Black communities, and specifically African countries, like to tell more stories from the continent. And so I've done a lot of like travel photography. Um, but yeah, but like any human being, there are moments where I struggle and kind of forget who I am. And so this is the piece that reminds me of my spirit. Um, so here I go. It is titled, I Am Here. I am here when your mind thinks I am gone. I am here. Lift up your chin, open up your eyes. I am asleep on that small cloud in the sky. The blinding sun, bashful light of the moon, stars that cry, that's me. From day to hours of darkness, I am the deepest cut that refuses to bleed. The wings on the steel statue that wants to fly, the skipped beat of a heart, scars painted on weak knees. I am here. I am so close. You breathe me. Behind closed eyes, centered upon a resting head, I am dreams of those who sleep. Heavy fog when I don't want to be seen. My most intense feelings lie within lightning. Rain and rain and rain, from the gentlest spray to the heaviest pour, I fall and I am the great Red Sea. I still feel human feet that walked upon my floor the day Moses opened me. I am every road leading towards home and peace. I am the apple in Adam's throat. He is no man without me. Every drum beat heard, that's the thud of my feet. The mesmerizing saxophone cry is heated blood flowing through me. I am amazed. Not all can comprehend me. I am yesterday, today, tomorrow, and forever, an everlasting story. I am here. When your mind thinks I am gone, lift up your chin, open up your eyes. I am on that small cloud in the sky. I am here. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to popcorn it to Caitlin.
Actually, there's just been a change in the agenda. So I thank you so much, Helen. Once again, I really appreciate your perspective, being someone who immigrated to this country, who has an Eritrean background, or um, her, bloodline. It's always very beautiful to hear, your poetry, knowing that you have those visuals from the motherland, because not all of us have those, right? So I just want to put a question out there. I feel like Danielle earlier was able to really articulate an awesome uh, response to Juneteenth becoming a national holiday, and I want to appreciate her for being transparent and open, her very real personal reaction to that. And I wanted to open the floor for our other participants or panelists to also comment on what their true, honest feelings are now that Juneteenth, our holiday, has now become a national holiday. And kind of from the perspective of, is this something we should be celebrating? Obviously, we know Danielle's answer. Considering that Cinco de Mayo has now become a cash cow for the country, and obviously that was a very sacred holiday that became a money pit for the country known as the US. So anyone has the floor to respond and share what their honest perspective is now that Juneteenth is a national holiday for any and everyone to participate in.
If they use the money pit to give us reparations, I will stop saying that we shouldn't have it as a national holiday. But yeah.
I'll play. Um, yeah, well, perhaps I won't play, because I guess you all have already heard my feelings about, systems and structures, and yeah, I mean, burn it all down. But I will maybe couch that with a little bit of a contextualization, because I didn't get to like share my feelings on Juneteenth earlier because I didn't introduce myself because I didn't follow the script, which, apparently I don't know how to do. But the thinking about the holiday of the holiday of Juneteenth, right? I mean, so in the piece that I read, right, I named like other Emancipation Day celebrations that happen throughout the world, right? Trinidad and Tobago, Guadeloupe, St. Martin, I mean, we have Emancipation Days wherever, like we were the day we were free. We want to celebrate. We want to have some party. We want to celebrate. We're going to do something to acknowledge that we're out of here, right? We don't have to be over there no more. So Juneteenth, in some respects, right, while I think we have tried to kind of nationalize it as Black, I mean, in some Black context, it's a very local and specific thing, right? The folks in Galveston, they rooted in that heritage, that's part of their folks, thing, and they hold that, right, as a sort of as a local context. And I think so I want us to respect that, like, yeah, if you look at it from the context of, like, I mean, maybe you grew up in the urban North and, you never sort of have had that sort of Southern context. Maybe it feels like, I mean, it's like a bitter taste in my mouth to, like, have this Juneteenth thing come around. And, I mean, I got to acknowledge it. Like, people found out about slavery at the last moment. Remember that, that celebrations as a sort of local context is a really important thing. And I don't know what other folks' local celebrations are. But I mean, remember that and hold that for those folks who come from that stock, right? And as far as the sort of national celebration, it's not going to translate. It never does, right? I mean, it's impossible to translate what that means for people who grew up in Galveston, right? For Black people who grew up from Galveston suck, right? And I didn't grow up there, but I grew up next door in Kenner City, right on the borders of New Orleans, right? So I know something about Southern folk and our traditions, and therefore, like, I cannot necessarily take much stock in it being a national holiday, because it's really impossible for them to really get at the root of what it means. And the last point I'll punctuate it with is that I used to, when I talk to people about like reading Pablo Neruda, I used to lament about reading Pablo Neruda, because I was like, I am reading Pablo Neruda in English, and already poetry is a form that it's impossible to translate the emotions from, but I'm reading a translated emotion that's then been translated from Spanish into English. So I'm getting the carbon copy of the carbon copy. The Juneteenth National Federal Celebration is the carbon copy of the carbon copy of the carbon copy. So, everything that it means is lost in that context. But, I like days off. And so, if somebody will give me a day off, I'll take it, and check.
Some people's jobs are already giving them the day off. So, like, if you work for Black companies or organizations, Black-led ones, I know I work part-time for Mother and Justice, and Juneteenth was a whole day off for us already before it became a national thing. So I thought that was pretty progressive of them in that moment.
I work for the New York State Department of Education, and they said, yes, Juneteenth is a holiday, and if this today had fallen on Juneteenth, you would have today off, but you don't. It's not, so you don't. And I think working through government, like, was it public education? I stopped a long time ago looking for any validation of my existence or the existence of the young people I work with from the system. You're just not going to get it. It's a losing hope, right? It's not something that's going to happen. It's going to have to be forced, right? So when they were even discussing making Juneteenth a national holiday, I said, okay, well, it's going to be a money grab, because that's what it is. So when the news came through that it was approved as a national holiday, I said, okay, fine. I'm not looking for any validation from any system that exists as it currently exists, because you're just never going to get it. But I will say, what we can do if you're choosing to work to push against these systems is to decide how you're going to move in it, right? So what are we going to do now that this has happened? Is there a shift? Is there something we're going to do that kind of pushes it to the next step? Or are we just going to recognize it as the money grab it is and just like let it sit? So how are we going to move in this moment, through this moment to the next one? I don't know.
I want to kind of echo what Danielle had said about